The first time I heard it, the room went quiet without blowing out a single candle. The hour was mean and blue, the city asleep, but the old building hissing through the vents like it had a secret. I had drawn my circle, traced my sigils, whispered words I'd taken from books and from older mouths that knew how to unspool the night. But then, from somewhere that wasn't on the altar and wasn't in my head, I heard a sentence so simple it didn't feel like power. It felt like a hand on a shoulder. Show me what is true, even if I don't like it. I pretended it was a draft. I pretended it was fear. I pretended I could smother it with incense. But it stayed, gentle, patient, relentless as tide water licking at chalk on a driveway. That sentence returned the next night, then a week later, then months after when my hands were steady and my voice was steady and my life was anything but. There are 3 prayers like that, quiet, unassuming, hidden under the floorboards of the world that no charm I knew could drown out. I didn't want them, I couldn't bargain with them, and still they found me. You don't have to believe me yet, but if you've been searching for the door that won't slam shut, lean in. Tonight, I'll tell you the 3 hidden prayers that witches can't resist, not because they overpower, but because they outlove, outlast, and outtrue everything we think is stronger. This matters because power is cheap without peace, and the world sells power everywhere. It matters because I know what it is to memorize moon phases while forgetting my own face, to be surrounded by candles and still feel cold, to speak confidently about energy and intention while my heart wakes at 3 a.m. with the old ache that no spell book ever promised to heal. This is for the one who's curious, the one who's gone too far, the one who swore off all of it but still hears whispers. It's for the one who loves someone tangled up in it and doesn't know how to reach them. It's for anyone who has dressed up wounds in language that sounds enlightened, awake, ascended, and found it didn't stop the bleeding. I won't demonize. I won't sensationalize. I will tell you how 3 prayers hid under my bravado and waited, and how they might be waiting under yours. I didn't set out to become the person people called at midnight. I was just a kid who learned the choreography of control. My house was loud and unpredictable, emotions like weather patterns that changed without warning, and I mistook predictability for safety. Then I found the quiet aisle at the back of the library where the books had moons on their spines. I liked the smell of old paper and the promise of diagrams. The first time I lit a candle because a page told me to, something clicked. There are rituals that are simply beautiful. Tea steaming, herbs crushed, a small room made sacred by attention. There are communities that welcome misfits and coax them into belonging. Don't let anyone tell you there is nothing honest there. There is. Honest longing, honest hurt, honest power. And still, beneath the hum of it, a faint, low-throbbing hunger I didn't want to name. I became good with language, good with timing, good with knowing when to nudge and when to wait. I knew which stones went in my pocket on certain days, which plants to steep when sadness felt like an anvil, which intentions to recite in the mirror. People began to ask me to guide them. It's amazing how quickly the student becomes the teacher when the only diploma you need is a steady voice and a fearlessness that looks like faith from across the room. But in every ceremony, there was a tiny second, smaller than a blink, where the room would go quiet and I'd feel the question rise under my ribs like something trapped beneath floorboards. Are you okay? Not the performance, not the role, you. There were moments when my control cracked. I remember a night the storm sat on the roof and the power went out, and my phone lit up with a message from someone I loved. I can't do this anymore. I held all the right stones, spoke all the right words, burned all the right leaves. The storm didn't move. The person I loved didn't either. I sat there in the candlelight, an adult who had collected rituals like badges, and I felt 12 again. That's when I heard it a second time, clear as if the walls whispered, "Show me what is true, even if I don't like it." I told myself I was tired. I made tea, but the prayer didn't belong to tea or to me. It belonged to something I couldn't choreograph. The first hidden prayer had been trailing me since I was little. I just hadn't known to name it. It isn't a prayer that tries to bend reality. It is a prayer that invites reality to bend me. It asks for light even if the light stings, truth without spin. It's disarming, and that's why no one resists it in the marrow of their bones for long. Not witches, not gurus, not skeptics. Because every person is tired of their own lies, even the beautiful ones we plate in gold. When I finally whispered it, barely in a bathroom where the fan buzzed and the mirror was weeping from the shower, I found a question hiding inside the prayer like a seed in fruit. Why do you need so much control to feel safe? I didn't like the answers. They weren't mystical. They were human. My dad's silence, my mother's sadness, the night a friend left and didn't call again. The way being the one who knows made me hard to abandon. Truth doesn't humiliate. Truth unburdens. And the weight I had been calling power was mostly armor I didn't know how to take off. If the first hidden prayer is truth, the second is name. There is a peculiar pain in the life I used to live. You get very good at names that aren't yours. You choose a craft name, a persona, a way to show up in the room that keeps you safe. You become an expert in trees and planets and the names of angels other people swore had spoken to them. You forget how your grandmother used to say your given name over toast and jam. You forget how your laugh sounded like before you learn to modulate it to make clients comfortable. I was in a thrift store, thumbing through dresses, when an old song crackled through a speaker so scratched it turned the melody into gravel. The chorus wasn't anything special, but there was a line in the bridge that said, "Call me the way you did when I was small," and it hit me like weather. The second prayer rose in me, uninvited. Call me by the name you gave me, not the names I've collected to survive. Names are anchors. Names are doors. Names are the first gifts we're given and the first things we try to reinvent when we feel unworthy of them. I took that prayer home and held it like a pebble. I said it once in the dark and nothing happened, not the way I'd been trained to expect. No wind shifted, no glass trembled. But the next morning, something embarrassing did. I found a shoebox of photos I'd shoved under my bed years ago. Knees scraped, hair messy, a face unself-conscious. I held those pictures and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Tenderness at the sight of my own mouth. Not ambition, not shame. Tenderness. The second hidden prayer is irresistible because we are all homesick for our own names rightly spoken. We are all tired of answering to what we are good at, what we survived, what we display. The name that love says over you is not a career. It is not an alignment. It is not a role. It is simply yours. And when you hear it, even once, a part of you thought was dead sits up. I wish I could say that after those two prayers, I walked out of every old room with dramatic music swelling. What actually happened is that I clung to my life harder. Paradox, the closer you get to the door, the louder your prison becomes. I felt jealous of people at peace. I felt angry at the God I wasn't sure I believed in, because if this love was real, why had it waited so long to speak? I went to a gathering one evening where everyone was burning what no longer served them. I could smell sage and grief. We named our burdens and watched the fire eat them with that satisfying crackle that makes you think a thing is gone if it becomes smoke. I wanted to feel clean. Instead, I felt an ache that fire couldn't touch. And then the third prayer arrived, without fanfare and without apology. Take what I cannot carry and give me your rest. Let me say this plainly. The third hidden prayer is surrender, and surrender has a terrible reputation among people who survive by control. It sounds like losing. It sounds like making yourself small. It sounds like letting something else win. But surrender is not collapse. It is consent to be loved. And love, real love, transforms you without taking your voice away. I whispered that prayer in a whisper so small I could pretend I wasn't saying it. The room didn't change. I did. The armor unclasped by a millimeter, then another, then another. The next day, a friend I had ignored because she wasn't spiritual enough sent me a text asking if I wanted soup. Soup. No candles, no crystals. We sat at her table and I wept into lentils like a cliché and realized I had built a life that fed my identity more than it fed me. The third prayer reached under the identity and touched the kid who had been hungry a long time. Here's the thing about hidden prayers. They are not spells. Spells try to marshal the world. Prayers like these allow the world to be and ask for the courage to be truthful, to be named, to be held. They do not manipulate outcomes. They open rooms inside you where outcomes don't define you anymore. That's why they're irresistible, not because they trap, because they free. The craft taught me to honor cycles, to witness seasons, to respect the dignity of earth and body, but it also, unintentionally, made me the curator of everything. Every feeling matched with an herb, every hope matched with a ritual, every sorrow matched with a candle. I was the museum of my own life, arranging meaning and placing plaques. Prayer took me out of curation and into communion. In communion, I didn't have to be impressive. I had to be honest. The first prayer, "Show me what is true," is a declaration of war against gaslighting, especially the kind we do to ourselves. It looked like being willing to read the text I was avoiding. It looked like admitting I didn't like how I treated people I couldn't impress. It looked like naming that my body was exhausted and my spirituality had become a coping mechanism I called a calling. If you pray it, truth may lead you into conversations you didn't want, into forgiveness you swore you'd never extend, into humility that feels like a free fall. But it will not lead you into humiliation. Truth is a surgeon, not a butcher. It cuts to heal. And for those who can't resist it, what I mean is the way the tide is irresistible to sand. You can build the tallest castle. The water still knows how to find the lowest place, how to fill it, how to reshape the shore with patience no human can muster. The second prayer, "Call me by the name you gave me," dismantles the performance. You can layer identities like winter clothes. You can survive that way for a long time, but you will sweat, you will itch, you will forget how to dance. When I asked to be called by my true name, I expected thunder. I got homework. I had to stop introducing myself by my pain. I had to let people know me beyond what made me useful to them. I had to learn to be boring, to be quiet, to be with people who didn't need me to be mystical to love me. If you pray it, you may remember memories you packed away like busted ornaments. You may feel tenderness for parts of yourself you exiled to stay safe. The exile ends, the name returns, the name giver smiles. And the third prayer, "Take what I cannot carry," is a confession that you are not God, which is terrifying and delicious. It is terrifying if your survival depended on being the most powerful person in every room. It is delicious if you are tired. I was tired. I didn't know I was allowed to be. That prayer didn't make my life easy. It made my life spacious. I learned to let silence be silence. I learned to say no to engagements that looked alluring but tasted like ash. I learned that rest is not a reward for finishing. It is oxygen. If you pray it, your calendar may groan, your relationships may cyst, your house might feel empty and then slowly like home. Turning point, realization. The night everything turned found me at a window, forehead against cool glass, city lights blinking like a constellation no one had charted yet. I had just come home from guiding a circle where everyone cried and everyone hugged and everyone promised to be better. I should have felt accomplished. Instead, I felt counterfeit. The truth is, my life looked magical and my heart felt mechanical. It kept time but didn't sing. I was so used to controlling the atmosphere that when I sat alone with myself, the room felt foreign. That's when the storm rolled in, one of those honest storms that makes gutters talk and trees bend like old men. I lit a candle out of habit, and the flame snapped and slanted and painted my walls in amber. In the flicker, I saw myself, not the version people adored, me. I started to pray the first prayer but stopped because I knew the truth was that I couldn't do it anymore, be the oracle, be the one who knows, be essential. So I said it differently. I said, if you are real, come find me. It wasn't eloquent, it was not my best work, it was the best thing I ever said. The room didn't change, I did. I felt my shoulders drop like I had been holding grocery bags for a block too long. I felt a heat that didn't come from the candle, not mystical, just human, like laying your cheek against a radiator in winter. The second prayer rose without me coaxing it. Call me by the name you gave me. And for a moment, I heard my given name in my grandmother's voice. It didn't sound holy, it sounded like mourning. Then I whispered the third. Take what I cannot carry. And the list came like rain. Control, image, 97 apologies I owed people I'd kept at arm's length with spiritual superiority, 97 more I didn't owe to anyone. Fear of being ordinary, fear of being found out that I was ordinary and incredible in the way every person is incredible, breathing air on a rock circling a star. I didn't tear down my altar that night. I didn't stage a dramatic exit from anything. The only thing that broke was the choreography. I let love lead. And here's the oddest part. The people I thought would recoil did not. Some followed me into this new quiet gladly. Some left. It hurt. It healed. I had thought I was the one seeking. I was the one being sought. That was the shift. I stopped auditioning for the universe and started answering to a voice that didn't need my performance to love me. I realized those prayers had always been here. They waited until I got tired enough to listen without an agenda. So here they are again, not as a formula, but as a doorway you can walk through from wherever you are. Show me what is true, even if I don't like it. Call me by the name you gave me. Take what I cannot carry and give me your rest. They aren't magic words. They are permission. Permission to stop curating an image that cannot comfort you at 3 a.m. Permission to be named by love instead of your last success or your last wound. Permission to put down the bags, the roles, the righteousness, the reflex to fix, and let yourself be held by the love that wasn't waiting for you to get it right to come close. If you are in the craft and you feel like I'm attacking you, I'm not. I remember the goodness you found because I found some too. I remember how being told you were wrong hardened you. I am not trying to harden you. I am telling you that if you hear these prayers in the in-between, on the bus, in the shower, between conversations, when the light thins, pay attention. They aren't trying to conquer you. They are trying to call you home. If you love someone who lives where I used to live, don't argue them into daylight. Whisper these prayers for them